Due to the graphic nature of this program, viewer discretion is advised. Earth, air, water, and fire. Code Red. In an instant, without warning, the forces collide, thrusting our fragile human lives into unthinkable turmoil. For the next hour, you'll experience moments of desperation and triumph from around the world. Real video that will surprise you, frighten you, and inspire you. Rare, unseen footage of unexpected disaster, terrifying crisis, and undeniable proof of the indomitable human spirit. These are the real-life struggles of trained professionals and everyday heroes. The people who rise to the challenge and put their lives on the line. This is Code Red. Moment of survival.
I'm Mike Newman. For almost 20 years as a firefighter, I've seen firsthand how 4 key factors can determine success in any crisis situation: timing, equipment, experience, and sometimes a little bit of luck. But the most powerful of these is experience. That's why we're bringing these stories to you, so you'll see what they see, and you'll know for yourself how to prevent, avoid, and most importantly, survive a disaster.
Truth or Consequences, New Mexico. Flames engulf this small town as people flee to escape the inferno. Deadly fumes fill the streets as propane tanks explode, shooting flames 200 feet straight up into the night. This man stays. He explains to a TV crew that he hopes to protect his home from the fire. Suddenly, ironically, the reporter was asking him if he's afraid.
Pretty big. Oh my God!
The man and the TV crew run from the 2,000-degree blast as yet another explosion rocks the street. This hell on earth rages through the night. But by morning, the fire is out, and the residents begin to see the extent of the devastation. Whole blocks utterly destroyed. And there's the culprit. This pickup truck had slipped its brakes, rolled into that propane tank, and one small town was never the same again. Because of the calm and orderly evacuation, there were no fatalities. And you can be sure this TV crew had no idea they were about to tape their own moment of survival. St. Augustine, Florida. This small plane is getting ready for a crash landing. The landing gear beneath the right wing is stuck. Unless it's released, the craft can only land on its belly. The plane is low on fuel, so the ground crew has little time to find a way out of this looming disaster.
I'm just going to see how fast this truck will go, and you go ahead and lower the main and the nose and see what it feels like to you once.
Fire engines and emergency medical staff stand by. The plane swoops in. It lines up its right wing with the flatbed. But the truck is not high enough. They abort and the aircraft flies on. The driver comes up with another idea. He enlists the help of a gutsy mechanic for a plan that staggers belief. With the car driving beneath the plane at about 70 miles an hour, the mechanic will attempt to yank the wheel down into position. The pilot holds an altitude of just 7 feet, low enough for the mechanic to reach the undercarriage, but the pilot can't see what's happening beneath him. The slightest error could slam the plane into the car or rip the mechanic out. He steels his nerves, reaches up, and the wheel locks into place. The mechanic beats the car roof with joy after pulling off the impossible. The pilot climbs out, grateful to the brave mechanic to whom he owes his life. Las Vegas, Nevada. Tourists and thrill seekers of all ages flock to the sidelines of a spectacular hotel and casino promotion. World-class stuntman Super Joe Reed is the headlining attraction. For the night's event, he plans a death-defying 101-foot building-to-building jump. He set the world record years ago. He intends to break it. The time has come. The spectators wait anxiously as Super Joe circles around during a final technical rehearsal. First, he tests his radio gear. His life depends on this vital communication link.
I copy.
Everything seems A-OK. Next, he will double-check his motorcycle's performance by jumping the small 30 ramps. It's a warm-up he's done literally thousands of times in his career. He races forward. The crowd is stunned when the stuntman crumples before their eyes. In the final seconds before the jump, the thrill rider spots a child inside the yellow tape. That image sticks with him as he makes his approach. Charging toward the ramp, he easily mistakes his cameraman for a curious child who could have snuck onto the track. Super Joe tries to abort, but has already hit the point of no return. Wrenching the throttle, he makes a desperate lunge for the target ramp, with bone-shattering results. His crew scrambles to his aid, fearing that the impact may have killed him. But he's alive. Though barely conscious and suffering serious injuries from the impact, the die-hard daredevil instinctively signals the crowd. They haven't seen the last of Super Joe Reed. On Code Red, disaster strikes at the speed of terror. A flash flood and a busload of teens grasping at survival.
How many are there of you?
40. How many?
A deadly inferno and a firefighter trapped inside. A rocket car pushing the envelope and racing straight towards self-destruction. No time to react, no time to escape. And it's all coming up next.
When a natural disaster strikes, ordinary people may be the quickest to respond, and fast action can save lives. But when a professionally trained and fully equipped rescue team arrives, the smartest thing for civilian volunteers to do is to step aside.
Comfort, Texas. 2 hours of heavy rains and the Guadalupe River is now a raging torrent. A busload of teenagers is stranded in the deluge. These kids were on their way to a youth group meeting when the floodwaters overturned their bus. With powerful currents swirling around them, the teenagers cling to the branches of trees. But the chilling waters are still rising. Panic and fatigue are setting in. A commercial helicopter arrives. It's not equipped for rescues, but something has to be done. The light chopper hovers dangerously close to the treetops. They drop a line into the foliage.
Go back, he's stuck in a tree!
The crew starts to lift one of the boys above the branches, but the rope isn't made for this kind of work, and neither is the helicopter. The boy dangles helplessly beneath the chopper. Finally, the pilot sets him down on dry land.
Okay, he's up now!
Rescue workers are shocked by what he tells them.
How many are there of you?
There's the back row, there's no 40. How many? 40?
In the bus?
40 young lives, and the river is still rising. The helicopter returns to a spot where 2 girls are stranded.
Go get the girl!
The water is higher. These girls can't hold on much longer. The wind has also increased, and the pilot struggles to hold his position. The volunteer makes several attempts to toss the line while the girls cling desperately to the branches.
gonna make a second throw.
At last, he hits the mark. One of the girls fashions a sling around her waist.
Go straight up! Go straight up!
There's no time for a safety strap. She just has to hold on.
You got it! Go straight up!
The remaining teens are now fighting exhaustion.
He's floating in the water right there!
Several are trapped where the chopper can't reach them at all. Suddenly, National Guard helicopters arrive, fully equipped and manned with a highly trained rescue team. One of the girls is trapped in the swiftest part of the flood.
She is right there, Mike!
The rescuer reaches her, but he can't find a handhold among the branches. High winds buffet the helicopter, making positioning nearly impossible. The specialist scrambles to stay with the girl. Now he struggles to keep his balance. Then he gets a tenuous hold on the terrified girl. An unexpected gust causes them to drag dangerously low. But at last, the chopper pilot is able to lift them safely away. Back on dry land, there are warm blankets and comforting words.
What's your name? Michelle! Michelle? Michelle. Okay, Michelle. Gotta get you warmed up.
When disaster overwhelmed this group of teenagers, local Samaritans were first on the scene. And while they lacked the ideal equipment, their courage and determination got this rescue started. When the professionals arrived, they were able to finish the job.
A firefighter has to watch out for subtle changes in heat or even the color of smoke. These are warning signs because smoke itself can ignite in a flashover, causing the whole room to explode in a fireball.
Chicago, Illinois. A building is on fire. Engine Company 26 is the first to respond. This duplex is made of crumbling brick and old dry wood, and it's about to go up like a box of matches. Firefighters don't like this kind of fire. They know that a building like this is a trap. They've seen it before. Deadly gray smoke pours out. Inside, firefighters sweep through the rooms looking for residents. Below, other crews quickly break windows to dissipate the smoke. They can't allow it to build up to the flash point. An explosion could kill anyone in the vicinity. On the second floor, a two-man search team finds no victims, but they see the smoke is changing color. It's nearing the flash point. It's time to get out. The first rescuer begins to head down. His partner will hand off axes and other equipment. Then, in an instant, the room becomes a blast furnace with the firefighter trapped inside. With no time left, he lunges for the ladder. As he jumps from the window, this fireman's gear is already smoking from the 1,000-degree flames as the heat burns through. A cozy parlor explodes into a fiery death trap. While this experienced firefighter was prepared for anything, conditions inside a burning building can change in a split second. Thankfully, his protective gear gave him the seconds he needed to escape death. Without missing a beat, he's back on the front line, ready to save others. The Sacramento Raceway Park, California. These two dragsters, powered by Learjet airplane engines, are about to compete in an incredible quarter-mile speed race. The jet-fueled turbos kick in with 6,000 pounds of thrust raring to go. They get the green light, and they're off. Dennis Geisler, in the far lane, pushes his four-wheeled rocket to an amazing 278 miles per hour, covering a football field per second. Then, as Geisler's parachute opens, the car swerves across the track. Then the car punches through the guard fence. Finally, the turbine explodes, forcing the yellow safety truck into a hasty retreat as its grille is scorched by the flames. Emergency crews rush to the wreck. The twisted metal fence, dislocated front wheels, and shattered motor are a testament to the sheer power and speed of the crash. A fellow driver is visibly shaken by the scattered wreckage.
This could have been me. It scares the living bejeebies right out of you.
The injured driver is rushed away to a local hospital.
Is he okay?
He broke both legs and an arm, but he's lucky to be alive, thanks to the strict safety standards imposed on the car's design.
The car is extremely well built. It went over at over 275 miles an hour, and the guy's walking away with a broken right arm and a few bumps and bruises.
Engineers check the parachute and conclude that the tie line's ripped.
It's garbage.
A second parachute was supposed to open, but Dennis lost control before it released. For Dennis, this was the end of the line. He is now retired from jet car racing. Coming up on Code Red, pushed to the limits and stranded on the edge. A blaze rips through a rundown hotel and tears through a Honolulu high-rise. A young woman teeters on the brink of destruction, and a building painter's life dangles by a thread. They're vertigo nightmares. And they're coming up next.
No one should ever hesitate calling the fire department because fire grows at an almost exponential rate. And every moment lost puts one more life in jeopardy.
Chicago, Illinois. A fire blazes through a transient hotel at 4 a.m. Due to faulty smoke detectors, many residents don't awaken until the flames are already upon them. Dozens remain trapped with no way out. The situation is so desperate, firefighters must scramble to save victims before running hoses toward the fire.
See you later over here!
Burning wires erupt in a shower of electrical fireworks. The sparks ignite more of the building. 2 victims on the rooftop are terrified by the massive power short. Firefighters rush a ladder into position, and the shaking residents begin the slow climb down to safety. But in this race to save lives, each ladder used to rescue victims means one less tool used for battling the blaze. Some occupants are frozen with fear, even when rescuers arrive. Smoke thickens, the fire spreads more quickly, and the panic spreads with it. On the upper floors, residents are ready to jump rather than face the flesh-searing heat. This man risks his life on a crumbling ledge. His fear of being burned alive outweighs any fear of falling. He's one misstep from a deadly plunge. But he hugs the building and finds the ladder. Inhaled toxic smoke disorients a man, and he slips from the fireman's grasp. The fire intensifies, but firefighters are still leading frantic residents to safety. Some have to wait a little longer. But firemen make sure that in the end, nobody is forgotten. When resources are limited and lives are at stake, fighting fires means first and foremost rescuing their victims. By sunrise, the hotel is a burned-out shell.
Hey, you! We got you! Hey, we got you there!
What really matters is that 27 more lives have been saved. Los Angeles, California. A car has smashed through the guardrail on a freeway overpass. Inside, a terrified 19-year-old girl is pinned beneath the shattered dashboard. She barely survived the crash. And now her car is hanging by a thread, ready to plunge 50 feet to the road below. The girl has no idea just how perilous her situation is. Bleeding and in excruciating pain from 2 broken legs, she beats on the steering wheel, unaware that this movement could send the car crashing to the pavement. The car teeters, a ton of metal ready to drop, and time is running out. Finally, help arrives. While firemen attach heavy chains to stabilize the car, a rescue worker holds the girl's hand to quiet her and keep her still. Firemen wrap a harness around the car and fix it to the arm of a tow truck. But there's a problem.
We attempted to pull the car up over the rail, but we were unable to do so without literally tearing the car apart.
Now firefighters will have to put their own lives at risk and go into the car to get the girl out. The extra weight could break it in half, killing anyone inside. The emergency worker is careful not to make any sudden moves. He reaches for the steering wheel and pulls up. It won't budge. They'll have to cut the girl out. A fire engine rolls in and its ladder is extended to the driver's side door. A rescuer climbs the ladder. He has to be very cautious. If the car collapses, it will take him with it. Finally, the girl is free. Rescuers pull her out as carefully as possible. And paramedics begin to stabilize her for immediate airlift.
Does that hurt?
As soon as these emergency workers were dispatched, they initiated a plan that would ensure the victim's survival. And when they came across a problem, they quickly improvised a solution. Because when a life is on the line, giving up is not an option. Honolulu, Hawaii. Smoke pours from the 25th floor of a high-rise. Above, 70-year-old Mildred McCarty is trapped inside her burning apartment. The flames have blocked her from reaching the hallway. In desperation, she climbs out the window. She's escaped the intense heat and smoke, but now she's in even greater danger. The ledge is 300 feet off the sidewalk and only 2 inches wide. Frightened neighbors plead with the woman to go back in. But Mildred's trying to get some air in her lungs before she passes out. There are more shouts from horrified spectators. Now there's no turning back. The blaze is out of control. Firemen will have to put it out before they can reach Mildred. The woman's skin begins to blister in the intense heat. Then the unexpected. A fire hose blasts through the window. This could be the final blow. Seconds later, the flames are out and firemen pull Mildred to safety. She's rushed to the hospital, where she recovers and is eventually able to return home. Mildred's fear put her on the edge of disaster, but it also gave her extraordinary courage and determination. Sometimes the will to live can give a victim the strength to endure. Chicago, Illinois, where a man's life hangs by a thread. A fall from an unstable scaffold has left this building painter dangling 7 stories above the pavement. Gawking onlookers stare in disbelief as the man screams for his partner's help. But his voice is swallowed up by the noise of the windy city. And his partner is on the roof asleep after a heavy lunch. Another painter on the ground below tries to calm the helpless man. But both know that the scaffold could slip again at any moment and dash the painter against the building. The man is already tired. Climbing down 7 stories would be too risky. His only way out is the exhausting climb to the roof. As he begins his ascent, he suddenly realizes the safety harness is tangled in a knot. Now the man's stuck with a terrible choice: climbing up without a harness or risking the scaffold's collapse. Both could lead to his death. His friend on the ground has left to get help, and the hanging painter makes his decision. He slips out of the harness. Now he's on his own. If he doesn't make the 8-foot climb to the scaffold, it's a 70-foot fall straight down. In the distance, he can hear fire trucks approaching, but they're already too late. Without his safety harness, he's fighting against fatigue and the whipping wind. He struggles to get a foothold on the climbing rope and slips. Now his friend from the ground is on the roof and has awakened the sleeping partner. They begin pulling the painter back up. But each tug threatens to shake the man loose. He holds on. He's just inches away from safety. Contact. But the man is clinging to a tilting scaffold by his fingertips. With muscles straining, the painter struggles to pull himself up, but lacks the strength. One of the firefighters arrives on the roof. Together, they're able to pull the dangling man the last few inches to the scaffold. But he's not safe yet. He's now resting on the same rickety platform which pitched him just moments ago. There's no time to waste. He must get to the roof. The exhausted painter reattaches his safety harness. The rescuers up above slowly haul the man up, one hand at a time, until finally they have him in their grasp. With one last tug, he's on the rooftop, safe at last. Still to come on Code Red, occupational hazards become worst-case scenarios. A professional stunt driver trapped underwater. A deep-sea fisherman becomes the catch of the day. And a team of firefighters buried in a burning avalanche. Next. Due to the graphic nature of this program, viewer discretion is advised.
Accidents that are intentional, like those staged for movies and television, are performed with everyone's safety in mind. But stuntmen know, even under controlled conditions, a staged accident can easily become a life-threatening situation.
Sacramento, California. Bobby Karpowitz is a professional driver on a film shoot. He's about to perform a dangerous stunt. It involves flipping this Jeep over into near-freezing water. His team has taken every precaution to guarantee the stuntman's safety. Bobby will jump out when the car flips, but in case he doesn't, a diver is on standby equipped with emergency air supply and a knife.
I don't want any glass getting in you right in the face there. Can you see out of that okay, Bobby?
The diver goes over safety procedures one last time. Bobby's life depends on his team's readiness.
Good. We're in there. We're in there.
Finally, they're ready to roll. Bobby's rehearsed. Now it's time for the real thing. He pushes the accelerator to the floor.
Here he goes.
But he doesn't have sufficient speed and is forced to abort.
Okay, cut.
Take two. This time Bobby gets up to speed, but he still can't get the Jeep to flip. Now it has to be towed out of the marshy bank.
This is going to be the last take on this, and if we don't get it, we don't use it. We don't go.
It's Bobby's last chance. It's all or nothing. He does it. The stunt is a success. Suddenly, the crew realizes there's no sign of Bobby. The stunt team rushes in. Bobby's trapped by his seatbelt. He's upside down and completely underwater. The team frantically tries to free him, but he's stuck fast and can't breathe. The diver attempts to cut him out, but can't reach over. He tries to put the respirator to Bobby's mouth, but the safety helmet is blocking his face. The stunt coordinator grabs the knife and desperately gropes in the muddy water for the seatbelt. At last, he finds it and cuts his friend loose. After a few tense seconds, the men are relieved to see that Bobby's all right. His friend and colleague hugs him for dear life, knowing how close Bobby just came to losing it.
Close, man. Oh my God.
The movies are all about illusion, but the stunts are very real and very dangerous. Bobby Karpowitz went to the edge for his profession. Today, Luck and his colleagues were with him, and he lived to tell the tale. Lake Catherine, Louisiana. A fishing boat captain and his crew are out to sea for another day of hard work. Today, their impressive catch of swordfish is sure to net them a healthy profit back on land.
As I expect, man. About a $2,000 fish.
Then one of the fishermen spots what might be another prize catch. A mako shark is hooked and just yards away from the ship's hull. It takes 2 crewmen to land the 6-foot shark, and when the beast is finally brought on board, it lies motionless on the deck. The fishermen examine the shark's limp, lifeless body and notice the hook stuck in its throat. But when a deckhand reaches to free the line, this mako proves that it still has a violent reflex to attack. The shark retains its unrelenting death grip on the crewman's hand. Rows of barbed, razor-sharp teeth foil any attempt to pull free from the fish's mouth. The other sailors rush to aid the fishermen. It takes a full 5 minutes before the man's hand is freed. And when all the damage is tallied, a total of 9 deep gashes cover the hand of the unsuspecting victim. These fishermen were amazed to see so much fight left in a beached shark. But when dealing with nature, nothing is predictable. West Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, a 100-year-old row house is in flames. Engine company number 5 responds to the call. The seasoned crew attacks the fire cautiously. They know how hazardous these old buildings are. On the smoke-filled 3rd floor, a squad of 7 men searches for trapped residents, room by room. Suddenly, the nightmare begins. The building collapses. Flashlight beams show the squad leader and 6 firemen falling as the floor disintegrates beneath them. Tons of brick and smoldering rubble have buried the men. Brother firefighters rush to their rescue. They dig through the splintered wood and broken bricks. Rescuers begin to doubt the men are still alive.
You need medical too, right? Yeah.
Suddenly, static on the radio becomes a human voice.
Charlie, you read me?
It's the squad leader. He's alive, but they can barely understand him. One of his men is badly hurt. With renewed hope, the rescuers redouble their effort. But once again, flames flare up. Now the men could burn to death before they're pulled out.
We need some help.
The fire is quickly put out. One by one, the fallen men are pulled from the smoking debris. A fireman with severe burns is rushed to the hospital. The other 6 suffer only minor scrapes and bruises. Fighting house fires is an everyday job, but firemen know it's never routine, because this simple house fire on this old city street nearly claimed the lives of 7 men. Coming up on Code Red, LA's deadliest landmark. Then, a terrifying plunge to the ground. Working helicopters with lives in the balance. Next.
Helicopters are so widely used, we almost take them for granted. But every pilot knows just how fragile a machine really is, and that they take their lives in their hands every time they fly. They better have the skill to be ready for anything.
Lafayette, Indiana. Circling above the finish line of a foot race, a helicopter videotapes the event. But suddenly, the real drama's in the air. Something goes horribly wrong. The rotor blade mechanism slips loose and the chopper plunges into a terrifying downward spiral. It lands on the edge of a roof, breaking its fall. It totters for a moment and then
I'm okay. Are you okay?
Incredibly, the pilot and cameraman are both alive. Stunned onlookers rush over and try to get the victims out of the shattered cockpit. But they discover a new threat, a fire in the mangled tail.
My seatbelt will not come undone.
The pilot's belt is stuck and he can't get free. The panicked spectators scramble away, afraid the craft will explode. But police and fire crews quickly arrive and haul out the petrified flyers. Of all crashes, a fall in a helicopter can be one of the most uncontrollable. The pilot attempted to steer out into open space, but ironically, hitting the rooftop first may have saved them from their bone-crushing free fall. As these two survivors can agree, any landing you can walk away from is a good one.
Are you okay?
Which is more than could be said about their helicopter. St. Louis, Missouri. Across the country, bungee jumping lures people like Marty Hatch, momentary daredevil seeking the ultimate thrill fix.
The big attraction for bungee jumping is adrenaline. It's pure adrenaline. The reason is the ground rush. You look at the ground, it's right there below you. You know what happens if you go too far.
But Marty is about to learn just how real the danger is. Bursting with anticipation, he eagerly straps on his harness and listens to instructions. Soon he's lifted up 10 stories, the height from which he plans to leap. Nearby, his friends cheer him on.
Come on, Marty!
Marty's willing plunge soon becomes a worst-case scenario when his lifeline slips off its hook. He lands barely on the edge of the airbag below. As he lies still and unresponsive, spectators dash to Marty's aid, dreading a severe spinal injury or worse.
It may have never been hooked up correctly to begin with, and one of the possibilities could include if this leather binder is not used, and instead a simple piece of tape is used to hold those two slings together, and a jump master should lock across the same sling, it would appear that it's hooked up correctly, only to find out that once the jumper jumps, it'll simply break apart.
Marty is rushed to the hospital, where he undergoes several operations. Thankfully, he suffers no permanent injuries. In the end, he cheated death by 100 feet and a few inches. Today, more and more people are willing to risk their lives for a quick burst of adrenaline. But sometimes, their extreme exploits bring them closer to death than they ever imagined. Los Angeles, California. These concrete flood channels lie dormant most of the year, but are deceptively treacherous.
It's only about 18 inches deep out there, but the water is running very, very fast. A smooth bottom, nothing to break up the water, no boulders or rock, so the water runs very, very swiftly.
Two teenagers stand trapped in the middle of the raging LA River. A sudden rain sends a torrent of water racing downstream, catching these casual spectators by surprise. The current is too strong to attempt a rescue from the shore. A helicopter is on the way. The victims shiver as hypothermia begins to set in. The girl starts to slip. Officers fear she'll be dragged downstream. Just as their strength is about to give out, a rescue team arrives. The chopper descends to pick them up. A fireman reaches out and pulls the teens to safety. The blinding spray makes the nighttime rescue even more difficult. These kids were lucky. The most serious attention they need is some good drying off. While innocently dipping her feet, another teenager finds herself swept off by the deceptive current with nothing to grab onto. The rescue helicopter must carefully maneuver around power lines and telephone poles to reach her and to pinpoint her constantly changing position. Captain Tim Quinn grabs the teen, but it's a struggle to lift her out of the water. The soaked girl is too slippery to get a hold of, so he straps her to his harness, and she hangs on for her life. It's another successful river rescue for firefighters, who are relieved that this time at least, tragedy was averted. The dramatic seasonal effects on the Los Angeles River attract inquisitive spectators, but it's a concrete death trap. These kids escaped unharmed. But rescuers know it's only a matter of time before someone else will underestimate this notoriously deadly river and end up getting swept away. Coming up on Code Red, the moment of victory becomes a flash of terror as the site of an oil fire turns into ground zero. Next.
Firefighters know that chemical fires are more intense, unpredictable, and frightening than any other type. That's why we work so hard to prevent them. But no matter how strict the safety standards may be, in an instant, Mother Nature can turn any controlled environment into a disaster.
Corpus Christi, Texas, a holding tank containing 20,000 gallons of liquid petroleum, has been struck by lightning and blazes out of control. Battling the inferno throughout the night, firefighters are now gaining the upper hand. From an unending relay of water trucks, firemen shoot jets of water and borate foam to smother the flames. Without oxygen, the fire will die out. 200 people have been evacuated from nearby homes. Some have gathered to watch. They gaze in awe at the raw power of the ignited fuel. This has been an around-the-clock struggle. The exhausted firefighters at last managed to subdue the monstrous blaze. Everyone is relieved that it's all over. The firemen take a much-needed break. Then, the unexpected. The smoldering hulk bursts back to life, and a giant ball of fire erupts above the startled crowd. Suddenly, there's panic as the scorching heat strikes. The flash fire throws out thousands of degrees of heat, scorching everything in the vicinity. The cameraman continues rolling, even as his skin blisters. Caught off guard, dozens of people are burned.
I'm gonna put a line right here, fix to get a deputy. Okay. I don't want anybody without bunker gear past it.
Emergency medical personnel quickly organize relief operations.
It started to boil over. By the time we noticed it was going to boil over, we backed out and it was too late. And the flash caught us.
As the bewildered onlookers and weary firefighters tend their wounds, the rekindled fire rages in the background. 3 of the refinery's workers are rushed to a local hospital, but everyone else is able to walk away. Firefighters have a great respect for oil fires, not just because they're notoriously difficult to put out, but because if they reignite, as they sometimes do, anyone in the vicinity must take a flight for survival.